The diner smelled of bacon grease and burnt coffee, the kind of place where the vinyl booths cracked like old skin and the jukebox hadn't worked since Clinton was president. It was tucked off Route 66 in a nowhere town called Elk Ridge, Oklahoma, where the sky pressed down flat and gray and the only thing moving faster than the wind was gossip. Maria's Diner. The sign read, though everyone just called it Maria's. The owner, Maria herself, had died 10 years back, and now it belonged to her niece, Elena Ramirez, who wore the name like a hand-me-down coat. Too big, too heavy, but hers all the same. Elena wiped the counter with a rag that had seen better decades. It was 6:47 a.m., and the breakfast rush hadn't started, but the silence felt louder than any crowd. She glanced at the clock, then at the back booth where her son, Mateo, sat hunched over a coloring book. He was 7, all elbows and knees, with curls that refused to lie flat no matter how many times she licked her palm and tried to tame them. He had a red crayon in his fist, pressing so hard the paper threatened to tear. "Easy, mijo," she said, her voice soft but carrying across the empty room. "You're gonna break it." Mateo didn't look up. "I'm making a dragon. Dragons need fire." She smiled, the kind that didn't reach her eyes. The dragon was half finished, all jagged wings and a snout that looked more like a dog. She'd promised him pancakes when the rush died down. He'd been up since 5, waiting for her shift to start, because daycare cost more than she made in tips on a bad day. So he came with her, sat in the corner booth, and colored while she poured coffee and dodged the hands of truckers who thought, "Sweetheart," was a personality. The bell above the door jingled. Harlan and Doris Whitcomb walked in, same as every Tuesday. Harlan wore a navy blazer even though it was pushing 80 degrees outside, and Doris had her hair set in curls so tight they looked painful. They took the window booth, the one with the best light, and Harlan cleared his throat like he was about to give a sermon. "Morning, Elena," Doris said, unfolding a napkin with the precision of a surgeon. "Coffee. Black. And the usual. Eggs over easy. Wheat toast. No butter," Elena recited. She knew their order better than her own phone number. "Coming up." She turned to the kitchen pass-through and called it in. Old Joe, the cook, grunted in response. He'd been there since Maria's time, back when the diner still had a soda fountain and Elvis on the radio. Now he just flipped eggs and pretended not to hear the gossip. Harlan leaned forward, elbows on the table. "Saw your boy again," he said, loud enough for the whole room. "Still here every morning. Ain't that something?" Elena's shoulders stiffened. She kept her back to them, pouring coffee into a chipped mug. "He's fine where he is." Doris clucked her tongue. "It's just not proper, Elena. A child in a place like this. All these people," she said. "People. Like it was a curse word. And you, working these hours. What kind of mother?" "Coffee," Elena said, setting the mug down harder than necessary. The liquid sloshed, dark as sin. "Anything else?" Harlan's eyes narrowed. "We're just concerned, is all. Folks talk. Let them." She walked away before they could say more. By 8, the diner filled up. Truckers in flannel, farmers in overalls, a couple of teenagers skipping school. Elena moved like a ghost between tables, refilling cups, taking orders, smiling when she didn't feel it. Mateo stayed in his booth, coloring, occasionally looking up to wave at her. She'd slip him a strip of bacon when no one was watching, or a corner of toast scraped clean of butter. He ate like it was a secret, quick and quiet. At 9:15, the bell jingled again. This time it was Karen Mills, president of the Elk Ridge PTA and self-appointed guardian of morality. She wore a pastel cardigan despite the heat and carried a clipboard like a shield. She marched straight to Harlan and Doris's table, her heels clicking like accusations. "I told you," she said, not bothering to lower her voice. "It's a disgrace." Elena froze halfway to the coffee station. She knew what was coming. She'd heard it in whispers for weeks. How Mateo shouldn't be here, how Elena was exposing him to God knows what, how a single mother working nights was one step from the gutter. She'd ignored it, because ignoring was easier than fighting. But now Karen was here, and Karen didn't whisper. Elena, Karen called, turning on her heel. We need to talk. The diner went quiet. Even the jukebox seemed to hold its breath, though it hadn't played a note in years. Elena set the coffee pot down. I'm working. This won't take long. Karen's smile was all teeth. It's about Mateo. Mateo looked up then. Crayon paused mid-stroke. His eyes, big, brown, too old for his face, met his mother's. Elena felt something twist in her chest. What about him? She asked. Karen stepped closer, clipboard clutched to her chest. It's come to our attention that you're keeping him here during your shifts. In a public establishment. With unsavory elements. She glanced at a table of bikers in the corner, who were minding their own business and eating pancakes. This is not an appropriate environment for a child. Elena's hands curled into fists. He's safe. He's with me. He should be in school. Or daycare. Or with family. Karen's voice dripped sympathy, but her eyes were sharp. People are saying things, Elena. About your priorities. About your lifestyle. The word hung in the air like smoke. Lifestyle. As if choosing between rent and daycare was a hobby. Harlan nodded solemnly. We're just looking out for the boy. Elena looked at Mateo. He'd gone back to coloring, but his shoulders were hunched, the crayon moving in tight, angry circles. She thought of the nights she'd cried in the walk-in freezer so he wouldn't hear. The times she'd skipped meals so he could have seconds. The way he'd learned to fall asleep to the sound of clattering dishes and country music. She took a breath. You want to talk about priorities? Fine. My priority is keeping a roof over his head. Food in his stomach. Shoes that fit. You think I like dragging him here at dawn? You think I wouldn't kill for a 9 to 5 and a babysitter who doesn't charge more than I make? Karen opened her mouth, but Elena wasn't done. You sit there in your pressed cardigan, judging me because I can't afford your version of perfect. But you don't see the nights I work double shifts so he can have a new backpack. You don't see him fall asleep on my lap on the bus ride home because he's too tired to walk. You don't see him smile when I sneak him a milkshake after close. You see a waitress with a kid in a diner. I see a mother doing the best she damn well can. The diner was silent. Even old Joe had stopped flipping eggs. Karen's face flushed red. This is exactly what I'm talking about. That language. In front of a child. Elena laughed. A sharp, bitter sound. He's heard worse from the TV you let your kids watch. At least I'm here. At least I'm trying. She turned to Mateo. Come on, baby. Let's get you some pancakes. Mateo slid out of the booth, clutching his coloring book. The dragon was finished now, all red and gold and fierce. He took her hand, small fingers sticky with crayon wax. As they walked to the kitchen, Harlan muttered something about standards. Doris shushed him, but not before Elena heard. She plated the pancakes herself. 3, with extra butter and a smiley face in syrup. Mateo climbed onto a stool at the counter, swinging his legs. She poured him orange juice in a plastic cup with a lid, the kind for toddlers, because it was the only clean one left. Mom, he said, mouth full of pancake, are they mad at me? No, mijo. She smoothed his hair. They're mad at the world. Doesn't have anything to do with you. He nodded, accepting it the way kids do. Can I have whipped cream? She sprayed a mountain on his plate. Don't tell anyone. The rest of the morning passed in a blur. The bikers left a $20 tip and a drawing of a motorcycle for Mateo. A trucker taught him how to make a paper airplane out of a napkin. Old Joe slipped him a cookie when he thought Elena wasn't looking. By noon, the rush slowed. Elena counted her tips. $43 and change. Enough for groceries and half the electric bill. She'd figure out the rest later. Karen and the Whitcombs were gone, but their words lingered like grease in the air. Elena knew they'd be back. They always came back. At 2 o'clock, the diner emptied out. Mateo was asleep in the booth, head on his coloring book, dragon wings smudged with syrup. Elena sat across from him, sipping cold coffee. She thought about quitting, about moving, about giving up. But then she looked at her son, his lashes dark against his cheeks, his small hand still clutching the red crayon, and knew she wouldn't. Not yet. The bell jingled. A woman walked in, mid-30s, wearing a pantsuit and a kind face. She carried a notebook, not a clipboard. Elena Ramirez? She asked. Elena straightened. Depends who's asking. The woman smiled. I'm Sarah Klein. I'm a reporter with the Tulsa Gazette. I heard what happened this morning. Mind if I sit? Elena glanced at Mateo, still sleeping. As long as you're quiet. Sarah slid into the booth. I'm doing a story on working mothers in rural Oklahoma. The challenges. The triumphs. Someone told me about you. Elena snorted. Let me guess. Karen Mills. Sarah's smile didn't waver. Doesn't matter who. What matters is your story. If you want to tell it. Elena looked at her son again. At the diner. At the life she'd built from scraps and stubbornness. Yeah, she said finally. I'll tell it. The article ran a week later. Front page, above the fold. The Immoral Waitress, the headline read, sarcastic quotes and all. It told the truth. About the long hours, the impossible choices, the love that didn't fit in a spreadsheet. It quoted Elena, Mateo, even old Joe. It didn't quote Karen or the Whitcombs. They were too busy fielding calls from angry readers who'd left $5 tips and notes that said, for the dragon pancakes. The diner got busy. Not just locals, but people driving hours to eat where the immoral waitress worked. Tips poured in. A GoFundMe started by a biker gang raised enough for Mateo's daycare and then some. Elena hired a second waitress, a single mom from the trailer park who needed the hours. Karen Mills stopped coming in. The Whitcombs switched to the McDonald's off the highway. One Tuesday morning, Elena flipped the sign to open and looked out at the parking lot. It was full. Mateo sat in his booth, coloring a new dragon, this one with a waitress hat and a name tag that said Elena. She smiled, the kind that reached her eyes this time. Order up, old Joe called. She grabbed the plates, hips swaying to a song only she could hear. The dragon watched from the booth, red wings spread wide, ready to fly.